I'm Michelle Begue with a look at what's happening in Latin America now. But first, our news trivia. Which Latin American country recently had two rival gangs reach a peace agreement? We'll have the answer later. We're starting this week with breaking news. In Argentina, football fans celebrated as their national team beat Croatia 3-0 in the FIFA World Cup semifinals and moved to the final game scheduled for December 18th. These images are from Buenos Aires at the obelisk, where thousands of fans gathered and erupted in joy, hoping that football star Lionel Messi and his teammates bring home the much-coveted trophy. Argentina won the FIFA World Cup in 1978 and 1986, but after that, it lost two finals in 1990 and 2014. Peru's new president is trying to bridge the divide after a tense week. Just to recap, former Vice President Dina Boluarte was sworn into the presidential office after Pedro Castillo was sacked by Congress and arrested. Castillo attempted to shut down the legislature just as an impeachment vote was set to oust him. The political upheaval has been followed by deadly protests. Let's go to my colleague Dan Collyns, who has more from Lima.
Michelle, Peru has erupted in protest as the country swings from one political crisis to another. At least 7 people, 5 of them teenagers, were killed in clashes with police in the first week. The smoke of burning buildings and tear gas hangs over cities across the country, with roads blocked and airports stalled. The spark was the ousting and arrest of Pedro Castillo after he tried to dissolve Congress illegally to avoid an impeachment vote. It followed months of infighting, and lawmakers finally impeached him on the 3rd attempt, removing him from office. While he was swiftly replaced by his vice president Dina Boluarte, who was sworn in just hours later. Thousands of Peruvians spilled out on the streets in cities across the country to protest his removal. Many want him reinstated and refuse to recognize Boluarte, and even more demand the shutdown of the loathed Congress, which has an approval rating of just 11%. Peru was one of the economic stars of Latin America in the 21st century. Its strong growth lifted millions out of poverty. But poverty grew in the COVID-19 pandemic, and coupled with the constant political turmoil, which has seen 6 presidents since 2018, that economic stability could be derailed.
Ecuador has held a census for its prison population. The prison system has become a scene of slaughter due to fighting between inmates from rival drug cartels. Some 400 prisoners have been killed since February 2021. Authorities have been trying to lower the overcrowded population in jails by releasing prisoners sentenced of minor crimes. The census showed there are over 31,000 inmates serving time in jail in 36 prisons across the country. The prison system has a maximum capacity of 30,000. Citizens of Mexico experienced a scare when a 6.0 magnitude earthquake shook the southwestern state of Guerrero. The quake set off warning signals in the capital, Mexico City, where tremors were felt. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador says luckily there were no damages. And there's a new hotel to check out in Costa Rica, although you might have trouble fitting into some of its rooms. This is a bee hotel. The small structure is located in a public park in the city of San Ramon. It's meant to be a place for solitary bees and roaming species to rest, pollinate, and reproduce. Experts say the majority of the bee species in Costa Rica are solitary and need these types of spaces to pollinate. Data from the United Nations shows that bees are losing their habitat and 35% of the pollinizers could be lost around the world. Now let's check out the stories we're following for next week. Panama is home to the largest copper mine of Central America. The foreign-owned copper mine in the Colón province accounts for 75% of the country's exports, but its future has been called into question. It needs to renegotiate a new contract with the government, otherwise it will be closed. The mining company doesn't want to sign the contract as the government's new terms have upped the taxes to 10 times the current amount. We'll continue to follow this story. And now the answer to our news trivia. The answer is A. Colombia's port city of the Pacific, called Buenaventura, has witnessed extreme gang violence over the past decade. President Gustavo Petro visited the city last week. He presided over a ceremony to mark the end of a 3-year turf war between the Xotas and the Espartanos gangs. The peace agreement was reached in September with the mediation of the Catholic Church and the left-wing government. Buenaventura, which is often called the capital of horror, experienced some of the worst homicide rates in the country. But since the truce, the city has gone 80 days without any murders. And that's it for this week. We'll see you again soon on Latin America Now.